Jobs, investment, quality of life, it's all on the line.
Well, here's a political ad that'll get your blood pumping. All the trimmings of an exciting race against other states. Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday. But what are we talking about here? Let's hit the brakes. Take a pit stop, maybe a caution lap while we hash this one out. That was an ad promoting Missouri's Amendment 5, a major tentpole of Governor Mike Kehoe's agenda. He's been working all year to gain support for eliminating the state's income tax. Even got the General Assembly on board with this one during the session. This would phase out Missouri's income tax over a period of years, but it would also give state lawmakers broad power to raise sales taxes with the goal of reducing the income tax. Governor Kehoe claimed earlier this year that Missouri is losing out to other states with no income tax in that race we just saw, and he plotted a way forward.
We can maintain a balanced budget that supports essential services and pursue a tax policy that improves Missouri's competitiveness.
Supporters claim Missourians would get more money in their paychecks every week and would have more of a say on where their money goes. The thing is, they may just have to give back that money to the government by way of those sales taxes we mentioned. Missouri Budget Project predicts some 80% of Missourians would see a net tax increase, with the average Missourian paying more than $500 extra in taxes every year. They say taxes would likely have to be raised exponentially, or the sales tax base would have to be expanded to make up for lost revenue.
You may go to different jurisdictions that have 5, 10, 20% tax layered on top of your goods and services.
I think that is a legitimate concern and something that's at top of mind for lawmakers as we contemplate this.
Again, if voters say yes and approve Amendment 5, lawmakers would have to go back to the table in Jeff City and figure out how this would all work. Let's get to the heart of the matter with our roundtable of journalists. Please welcome back KMBC9 political reporter Michael Mahoney and Jason Hancock, editor-in-chief of the Missouri Independent. All right, gentlemen, let's get to it. As we said, this phase-out is a priority for Governor Mike Kehoe. Why now, Jason?
I mean, this was a big campaign pledge for him, and I think he saw this as the opportunity to get it done. Leaned on the legislature pretty hard to push this across the finish line. And I do think that one of the reasons they moved it to the August ballot was hoping that maybe a more Republican, more conservative electorate would lean more towards that, supporting trying to phase out the income tax and replace it with an expanded sales tax. But it does create some messaging issues for him because, you know, just a couple weeks ago we had a huge budget cuts, talk of a revenue and spending problem in state government. It doesn't jive as well with the message of tax cuts that they're trying to preach right now in order to get Amendment 5 across the finish line.
Yeah, Jason makes a great point there that there's a conflicting message here between the budget cuts that were announced at the end of June, the front of July, and this linchpin policy from the Kehoe administration to eliminate, gradually phase out is a better way to put it, the income tax, state income tax, and some of the sales and property taxes. Those are conflicting messages in a tight budget time here. But the Kehoe administration and Mike Kehoe has made this one of the linchpins of his administration, and he also points to the 8 or 9 states around Missouri and throughout the country, places like Texas, Tennessee, Florida, that do not have income taxes. And he says those are the states that are moving, and that if Missouri wants to move and be economically dynamic, they need to reduce the income tax or eliminate it because he says, you know, it's an outdated form of revenue raising, and make the shift. But as you mentioned, Cody, at the beginning of this, if it passes, then the legislature has to go back and develop the mechanism to do that, and that is going to be difficult.
Right, and how do the big question is, how do you pay for this, right? And Jason, I know we saw in some claims that somehow big tech would be on the hook for this. That is not in this amendment. So what's the takeaway for that?
I mean, it's smart, I guess, politically with how unpopular places, things like data centers are right now, to maybe try to latch on to that sort of movement. You see a lot of energy on those issues, you know, surrounding, you know, things like electrical use and utility rates. But the reality of it is what this amendment does, if it's approved, is give the legislature the authority to try to implement a phase out of the income tax. They could cut the income tax tomorrow if they wanted to. What they need is to be able to replace that revenue. And if they want to raise the sales tax, for instance, or expand it to different services, they would have to come back to the voters to do it. This gives them the ability to just do it themselves. For the purposes of eliminating the income tax, they could raise the sales tax. They could put the sales tax onto things that currently aren't taxed. And that's what they're trying to sort of hang it on is right now there is a tax break for data centers that gives them a pretty sweet deal in Missouri. But the problem with the thinking is that the lawmakers have to come back and have the political fortitude to actually do it. And so critics of it say, this is just a blank check. This is giving them carte blanche to raise taxes on the things that they want to raise taxes on without any sort of plan going into it for voters to latch onto. So you see a lot of the ads against Amendment 5 focusing on this idea of, do you trust Jefferson City to make these decisions? And that's the sort of steep hill the supporters of Amendment 5 are trying to climb.
Yeah, it's a good point. And as we said, voting yes starts this process, but there are still a lot of unknowns.
There are a lot of unknowns, and even though this is a priority for a Republican governor, not all Republicans in the legislature are on board with this. Some in the Senate, some in the House, some here in our area, and they're peppered throughout the state. This is going to be a heavy lift, especially because we keep talking about the possibility, the reductions in the state budget that are coming. The legislature may go back and revisit some of the tax breaks that Jason was talking about as it relates to data centers, because there's going to be an intense search for money.
Right. We'll be watching closely. Michael Mahoney, Jason Hancock, thank you so much.